are live, my friends. We're here Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, back Sundays 4 to 6 p.m. Now, I want to set the stage here by playing a video clip, and then we're going to Kurt Haskell, one of the survivors of the Christmas Day attempted bombing of that aircraft, not this last Christmas, but the Christmas before last, 14 months ago. But all of this comes on the heels of WikiLeaks putting out government documents and saying, oh my gosh, the FBI is now searching for hijacked supporters who were casing things. But in the document, the media is focusing on the scary, Al-Qaeda people who haven't been caught and how the FBI has been dispatched to the Middle East to try to find them. But in the document, it admits that they were known by intelligence and that the FBI was told to stand down. And that's Paul Joseph Watson's article dealing with this at prisonplanet.com. WikiLeaks bombshell points to 9/11 stand down. Now, what do we have going on with Anwar al-Awlaki, the #3 guy in al-Qaeda? 2 months after 9/11, secretly meeting. In fact, let's put up that Fox News article. Secretly meeting at the Pentagon while he's on the news as one of the top al-Qaeda people. Now they admit he was behind the Fort Hood shooter. He was behind the Christmas Day bomber. He was supposedly behind the underwear bomber, the Christmas Day bomber. He was supposedly behind the shoe bomber, the Times Square bomber. But he's protected. And then I interview Springman of the Saudi Arabian embassy for the U.S. when they were ordered back before 9/11 to let Mohammed Atta and others back in. And when others in the visa office complained, they were told, don't worry, they're not really terrorists. This is part of drills. They're government agents. And you got the Newsweek headline, hijackers trained at U.S. military bases. And Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Butler, the head of the Defense Language School, saying they were trained at his school. The list goes on and on and on. But with Mutallab, the underwear bomber, he looks disheveled, kind of looks drugged. He gets led onto the plane. They get him on the plane without all the proper documents. Kurt Haskell and his wife, who are both lawyers, watch this. Then they see all the chicanery on the plane. He comes out and talks about it. The FBI says that can't be true. And then months later, after Christmas, in February, the State Department deputy head, Kennedy, says, yes, an unnamed U.S. agency asked us to let him get on the plane and not stop him and to basically give him the visa. Now, Kurt Haskell has now said more, but there's the Fox News headline, exclusive. Al-Qaeda leader died at the Pentagon just months after 9/11. I want to play this short Fox News clip from a few weeks ago outside dealing with the underwear bomber and his trial. And Mr. Haskell, he and his wife survived it, and everything they've said has now been totally proven. The issue here is Kurt Haskell isn't saying this. He witnessed it. The government tried to deny it and now has admitted it. And is his standby lawyer going to bring this up? Is Mutallab, clearly out of his mind, going to bring this up? We saw the government cook the bomb, train the driver, and order a stand down in '93 with the first World Trade Center attack. It's the same story over and over and over again. A month ago in Germany, a plane came in with a supposed bomb. Turned out that was a drill, but they reported it after. Kurt Haskell joins us, who's been completely vindicated in spades, everything he talked about. Kurt, we appreciate you and your wife's courage. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me back on, Alex.
Recap, basically, for those that don't know the details of the story, exactly what happened and now what's unfolded since then.
Sure. Well, the main part of what people want to hear me talk about is what I saw before boarding, which was a man in a tan suit who appeared to be Indian escorting Mutallab to the ticket desk, indicating that Mutallab needed to get on the plane, but he didn't have a passport. The ticket agent refused, and then the man in the tan suit said, he's from Sudan. We do this all the time. They got into a bit of an argument, and then she referred the man in the tan suit and Mutallab down a hallway to talk to the security manager. And then, of course, he winds up on her plane detonating a defective bomb, but we didn't know it at the time, a few hours later. So, that's what most people want to hear from me as to my pre-boarding account. It shows that not everything was on the up and up before boarding, and now we have, since then, we have more FBI plots where they've admitted giving the Portland Christmas tree bomber and the Wrigley Field bomber, just two off the top of my head, intentionally defective bombs. And now we have standby attorney Chambers indicating that, in fact, this was a defective bomb. you know, with all the other evidence. I could go on and on and on about all the other evidence, but I think if you just take those three pieces of evidence right there and add 2 + 2 + 2, you have the U.S. government letting Mutallab on the plane with an intentionally defective bomb.
And then we have the FBI visiting your office a month or so before the State Department admitted that what you'd said was basically true. Unnamed U.S. agency, to be technical, I guess, helped him get the visa and then helped him get on without the passport, to be technical. And you witnessed this, and then the media tried to say, and the government, oh, no, Haskell and his wife, they didn't see this. Then once it lands, they pull you off, claim they find other bombs, clearly other men that were somehow attached to the underwear bomber. All that gets covered up. You're told you didn't see that. Then other witnesses come out on CNN and confirm what you saw. But all that gets swept under the rug, and this happens. And within minutes, Chertoff, who didn't tell the public he was making money from it, is on TV saying, don't worry, we'll put scanners in now that they'd already ordered a year before, claiming they went in because of this when they'd already ordered them. And this full TSA, hands down the pants, you know, giant international story. This is how they're selling us this. And they go out and find mentally ill, low-grade morons. You and others described him as being kind of disheveled. Some saying he almost looked drugged. I've seen videos of him. He looks like he's probably at a 75 IQ, probably retarded. And the whole thing is just a giant setup, and now he's going to represent himself. And you're a lawyer. I mean, this whole thing looks extremely shady. Is there any way for you to force your way into the trial as a witness? But I guess Mutallab would have to call you or the prosecution and say, hey, let's get into real questions. Let's talk about who was behind him. Let's talk about the government getting him on the plane.
And there's not a chance that the prosecution is going to call me as a witness. Now, I have been in discussions with standby attorney Chambers, and if he has anything to say with it, I'll be one of the main witnesses for the defense. But, as you stated, Mutallab is currently representing himself, so who knows how the trial will play out. It's a total crapshoot if someone's representing themselves at a trial.
Well, you know, I've interviewed multiple prisoners and lawyers who sued and got the documents and got sworn affidavits from Larry Nichols that McVeigh was told, your family's going to be taken out. You are special forces. We had you do this. You'll be taken care of if you just go along with it. And I wonder if they're telling the underwear bomber the same thing now, because, you know, I mean the fact that he doesn't even really speak good English, does he? And now magically he's going to represent himself. I mean, this is just incredible. I mean, the only way they can keep this from coming out in the trial is to keep you and others from speaking.
Yeah, you're probably right. He did have an interpreter at the hearing I was at last week. His English seemed to be fairly good, but he did talk to his interpreter on 2 or 3 occasions, so his English isn't perfect.
Is he, Kurt, is he saying anything? Thank God you've been there. Hopefully you can come back on as this unfolds. I mean, you're the expert on this. I mean, take us where we need to go. I'm just asking questions that seem rational here. But, I mean, if I was the underwear bomber and I'd been led on the plane by people and protected, he should be saying, I was set up. Yes, I did it, but the government helped me. I mean, is he saying anything like that?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, most of the hearing I was at, about 25 minutes of it, and the hearing went on maybe 40 minutes, was Mutallab and Judge Edmonds basically arguing back and forth whether he was going to represent himself or not. Judge Edmonds insisting that he should have an attorney, and Mutallab saying, no, I'm representing myself. And this just went on back and forth for about 25 minutes. It was the strangest thing. It seemed like everybody watching this in the courtroom just wanted to stand up and say, let Chambers be your attorney instead of your standby. You know, everyone was on the edge of their seat waiting for Mutallab to say that, and he never did. And eventually Judge Edmonds gave up on this argument. But your point is basically a point that I was thinking of, too. There's only really 3 explanations why he's representing himself. He's being threatened with something, he's being promised something, or he has such a distrust for the United States system itself due to being duped in this plot that he does not trust an attorney being appointed from the court. So I don't know which of the 3, but I don't see that there can be any other possibilities other than one of the three, and I don't know which it is.
Well, in the last year, as you mentioned, there have been 8 cases that we've chronicled here that I know of where they go out and find people who are described as morons, normally out of the prisons, are recruited directly by the government, contacted by the government out of whole cloth, and directed to carry out jihad with dud bombs. Clearly here we know that's what happened. The evidence, as you said, is incontrovertible. And, boy, this is really going to hurt the insider's agenda for the police state if it's able to come out what really happened.
I agree. The question is it going to come out? I really have a hard time believing that it's going to come out. Until the hearing last week, I was adamant that there would be a plea deal in this case and no trial. And now I'm convinced there will not be a plea deal and that this will go to a trial based on what I saw at the last hearing. So my question then is, how does this not come out? And probably the most logical answer is that Mutallab represents himself and does such a bad job of putting on his case that the real evidence doesn't come out. Probably the most likely scenario. I'm sure there would be some others, but that's probably the most likely scenario what's going to happen.
I know that in some types of court cases you can have an amicus brief or someone from the outside who claims they have some type of standing. You're one of the survivors, the victims of this government moron plot, patsy plot. I mean, is there some legal maneuver for you to insert yourself in there?
I don't think there is, Alex. Nothing that I know of offhand. If there are any legal geniuses listening to this that thinks maybe there is, let me know. Contact me. I don't think there is. I don't think Judge Edmonds would let me be anywhere near Mutallab as far as representing him. And interestingly, on that point, there was a discussion during the hearing, too, that the standby attorney Chambers is having a hard time getting a hold of Mutallab in the prison where he's at, Milan Prison, indicating on the record that his voicemails are not being given to Mutallab, his faxes are being thrown away, and he's not getting cooperation in setting up appointments with Mutallab from Milan Prison, to the extent that Judge Edmonds said she would make a call to the prison to discuss it with them. And standby attorney Chambers even saying that he believes Milan Prison got a call from someone higher up, I think those are his exact words, which led to this lack of cooperation. If you give me one other second, there's one other thing about the hearing I want to talk about. There was another discussion, quite lengthy, whether standby attorney Chambers would be given the evidence that Mutallab's originally hired and fired attorneys have provided by the prosecution, because he's only a standby attorney. And the government's position was that he should not be given this evidence because it could be subpoenaed or made available to third parties in a possible civil suit against the government, which I thought was kind of interesting that they're concerned about that.
Well, that's bombshell. They're trying to cover up. They don't want anybody to ever hear or who has a brain to be able to talk to Mutallab.
Right. The point being that Chambers is not his actual attorney, so therefore there's no attorney-client privilege. So everything that Mutallab tells Chambers, other parties such as myself in a possible civil suit could obtain. I thought that was pretty interesting. There was about 10 minutes of the hearing spent on that. So that's an admission that they're concerned about evidence that shows that the government is civilly liable. Well, that's one way you can interpret it, definitely. They did seem to be concerned about that. We're going to break in a moment, but continue fleshing that point out. I mean, because you're a lawyer, you understand this better than some.